Well, good Sunday morning, everyone. Location, location, location. If you're a real estate agent, that's what you tell your client. But if you're a commissioner's court, what do you tell your tax assessor collector?
You should be worried about yourself and worried about your office, the way you're treating people, and the way all the situations that are happening. My advice, be careful and stay in your lane. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
At this past week's Commissioners Court, two sides, one property, and a growing rift. The issue at the center of it all, the potential move of the county tax office. Commissioners clashed with the tax assessor collector over the county's possible purchase of a building off Highway 59 for a future tax office. On one side, the tax assessor collector went to the podium to say she hadn't been consulted about the possible relocation and cited several reasons for opposing it. On the other, commissioners fired back at some of the claims of high costs and rumors, some of them saying critics are causing chaos and panic by spreading inaccurate information. But what started inside Commissioners Court spilled out online in the days that followed, this time with the tax assessor collector responding to what commissioners had to say, including questions about her motives and the cost of the project.
Judge Tijerina and every member of Commissioners Court, I dare you, call the FBI. They can check my checking accounts and see how I've made my money, what I inherited and what I built. And let's each one of you do the same. Let's have us checked. I'm not scared because I know where I come from. Tell the public what the truth is. Please expose the truth and show me the liar.
Well, that's where we begin this morning's discussion. Joining us are no strangers to the show, Poncho Caso and Hector Alanis. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Hector, we invited you to be here once again. Always love your input, but also you are an expert when it comes to commercial property, and we wanted to get your insight on that. And of course, Poncho, you've been very vocal on social media about what is happening right now with the county, with this piece of property, and just the rift in general. It seems to be just, you know, not getting very good between the judge and, of course, the tax collector, Assessor Patricia Barrera.
Correct. You know, first of all, my whole goal, and I've been working on this for probably 30 years, is to get the county to collect all the taxes, like they do in San Antonio, they do in Corpus, they do in Austin. The Webb County should be collecting taxes for UISD, LISD, the city, and the county's only collecting the taxes right now for the college. And now they have another taxing entity downtown, the Central Laredo Management District, and those taxes are being collected by a firm out of Houston. So you ought to have one, the county ought to be collecting it. And once you have an interlocal agreement with all the entities, then decide where you're going to go, how much space you need, because you're probably going to absorb some employees, and some of those other employees are going to be dismissed, and that's the reason they don't want that. But that's what you need to have. You need to have economies of scale, you need efficiencies, and you need the taxpayer should be receiving just one bill, not 5 or 6 bills. It's ridiculous. And so I got involved because Patricia had contacted me and said, look, they're going to buy this piece of property for maybe 10 million, 5 million, whatever the appraisal is. We don't know what the appraisal is yet. And then we don't have the environmental assessment report because we understand there's a lot of asbestos and so on. And so we just put it out there because you saw what happened with the HEB, you know, and they say that they buy at the appraised value, but that didn't happen with HEB. With HEB, it was an illegal flip, and I even got invited by the FBI to go and educate them on the situation. So we just want transparency, and the way they've been doing things hasn't been too transparent.
Well, at the end of the day, and I'm sorry to step in, Hector, at the end of the day, and I think we've had this conversation before, it goes beyond it being a smart purchase or a bad purchase, or whether it's about how it's being done that we kind of want to know. I mean, as opposed to, we can argue, and I'm sure you have some information about, you know, the property itself and the appraised value and all those things. And I think at some point we miss the point of, is it being done in a transparent way?
Well, you know what's interesting? I filed an open records on January the 2nd. They put it on the agenda January the 12th. And today, they're asking for more time to comply with the 10-day working, you know, with the law. So, you know, to me, like FDR said, in politics, nothing is coincidental. It doesn't happen by accident. So why would they just put it on the agenda just like that? When they even claim that they haven't even read the environmental assessment report. So I mean, so why are they rushing? And then they get upset when people start asking
when somebody questions.
Yeah.
Hector, let me ask you. So we went ahead and picked up the appraisal value for the piece of property. It is separated into two pieces of two accounts, but it is the same property. So this is the Casablanca Ballroom property. It is appraised for $4.4 million. So with this particular appraisal from the appraisal district, how does that translate to what it's being sold? Because I understand that there is...
That is a good question. That's a good question. So first and foremost, let me tell you that I am a commercial real estate practitioner here in Laredo with about nine years experience. And just a couple of disclosures. One, as far as the political, environment regarding this particular topic, I'm not sure whether or not I want to, play sides, right? But where I can help you is with information regarding the commercial real estate, right? And so on the commercial real estate side, when we're talking about the assessment values for WebCAD, I mean, that's not always going to be accurate, okay? Sometimes those assessments are going to be higher than they should be, and sometimes they're going to be lower. So when we as commercial practitioners or even residential practitioners, look at the assessments, we only take a look at that information just to kind of base as to what the tax rate is and what you're paying tax properties on. What we really look at, when we're determining the value of the property, is we look at, and you said at the beginning at the show, location, 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 right? So location is one. Another one is supply and demand, because that's going to have a factor on the cost of the property. The other one is the condition of the property, and then of course, that all those things, play an important role on how we value the piece of property. Now, I can tell you that commercial land in Laredo, it's pretty expensive. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Either one of you.
Sure.
What is the property being sold at?
Okay. So
what's the price on it?
Here's another disclosure here. I represent the Guerra family in other real estate investments. I had this property listed. I am, full disclosure, I'm not involved in this transaction because it just happened to be off the market when the county, made a direct contact with family. And so I'm not involved, in this transaction. Having said that, now that the proverbial cat's out of the bag, if this deal goes through, great. If it doesn't go through, the Guerra family has, is allowing me to participate in looking at new offers, right?
When you represented them prior,
Yes.
what was the building?
So the property, the asking price of the property was $6.1 million, okay? More importantly, back in July of 2021, we actually had a professional appraiser appraise the property, and that appraisal came in at $4.3 million. Now, there's a couple of things that you have to consider regarding this property. It's really, how many pieces of 14-acre tracts within the city of Laredo are there? There's none. There's that they're available, that they're platted, that they're zoned. This is a pretty good location, right? In addition to that, the appraisal, as I mentioned earlier, came in at $4.3 million. It has a property value, mixed land and building as well. But if we're just looking at land, because my understanding is that the city, not the city, but the county made demo the property.
Exactly.
And then of course we got to look at the value of the land, right? There's pieces of property on Saunders that have sold from $20 to $30 a square feet. Okay. One of the last pieces of property that was sold was at the corner, right across this property, Caddy Corner, where the QT convenience store went. They paid a little over $20 a square feet. So all this
So do the math for me. So 14, what is this? What are we looking
so
at?
let me just tell you, at the listed value of $6 million.
I didn't go. I went to the wrong school as we were talking about earlier. So I didn't do math.
So at $6 million, we're looking at about $9.83 a square foot for the land only.
For the land only.
At $5 million, it brings it down to about $8.19. Okay. I will tell you that one of the reasons that the family, is selling the properties, they've been in the business for 55 years.
Yep.
That's a long time. The family, of course, Mr. Guerra, Encarnacion Guerra, opened the business. And so it would be important for him as they're getting to this, final stage of the entertainment, business, right? For him to be able to sell the property, because only 3.5 acres, is being really utilized by the Casablanca Ballroom, right? The other 11 acres is really, and the 11 acres is really not. It's just land that's just been sitting there, right?
Flood issues, things like that.
So let's talk about a couple of other things, okay? So one of the reasons the property is not sold, because we first initially listed it back in 2019. But the family wanted to be discreet about selling the property, so there is not a for sale sign out there. We did have it on a commercial website, so very few people knew about it. We have received 3 offers, since then on the property. One was for full asking price when we initially had it available at $7.1 million. The deal was going through well, and then ultimately at the very end, we were not, able to close on the deal. We had 2 other offers since then. And we've had interest in the property because, again, there's not any 14-acre tracts within the city of Laredo, right? I lost my train of thought, sorry. The question was?
Well, the original question was, what's the asking price and what is the property worth?
So going back to that, the appraisal value, when we do comparables in commercial real estate, we want to look at, again, how much have other properties sold, for, right? The location plays into it, and the supply and demand, as I said. So we already know how much, other values of properties have sold in that area. So when we want to take the guesswork out of the equation, we, hire professionals. Yeah. And that's what we did back in 2021, $4.3 million. Of course, that was 4 years ago. So now the property, has increased in value because of other factors. You've got the QT convenience store at the corner. You've got the Killam Group developing the rest of the property. So that increases the value. Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you this. The property is not being sold for $10 million.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Where does the $10 million number come from?
The $10 million number came from inside the tax office because there's a lot of rumbling, behind the scenes as to what these people want to do. So as soon as the cat was let out of the bag, things, got back to reality because, that was the rumor they wanted to spend, they wanted to pay. And yes, in the CAD, it's appraised right now 2.4, but Bobby said this year it's probably going to be, they're going to increase it to about $4-something million.
Well, this one,
so they've been paying taxes on $2.4 million. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they've been paying taxes on.
Well, the way he explained it to me was that it's appraised at 4.4, but they go and protest the property, and it went before the ARB, and they reduced it by about 50% because
50%.
Yes, because
but wait a minute. Let's talk. That is, that's something that perhaps we should discuss at another show because there are a lot of variables in there, right? There's a lot of properties that are undervalued, and there's a lot of properties that are overvalued. So that's a topic that, we can take another 30 minutes on.
And the county owns 300 acres too. So, if you're going to go spend $1.8 million to knock it down, in the private sector, you probably wouldn't do that unless you're very wealthy or, like you said,
I don't think it'll cost $1.8 million. I've done some work. So the property, there's a few factors that the property is not sold. One is it was not for sale, right? The other is it is in a flood zone, but only partially. About 9 acres of the property is in a flood zone. The building is not.
Okay, well, we're going to come back definitely, and we're going to continue this conversation. But when we come back, it's the kind of law that touches us all, but it hardly gets mentioned. We are going to talk to a Webb County judge about an upcoming seminar and the help that lawyers and the community can tap into. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for sticking around. Well, mark your calendars. A special seminar is shining a light on family matters in the law. The Texas Family Law Section is hosting a 2-day continuing legal education event where Webb County attorneys and paralegals can learn from expert panels to stay on top of the latest changes in family law. Now, the Family Law Section calls it an invaluable opportunity for local legal professionals to get familiar with procedures that can improve their practice. The seminar takes place place later this month on the 27th. And joining us for this part of the conversation is County Court at Law Number 2, Judge Victor Villarreal, to discuss the upcoming seminar and the importance of the resources that are available. Good morning, Judge. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we wanted to invite you to the panel because there was a statistic that we got a hold of that said 80% of cases in Laredo courts are due to family matters. And that was very eye-opening for us because a lot of the news that we report, cases from Laredo PD or other law enforcement, have to do with family matters, domestic violence, issues with children, unfortunately. And we wanted to talk a little bit about that. How prevalent is that here in Webb County?
It touches every single family in Webb County. Family law touches every person in the county. So there are 2,400 cases that were filed, family law cases that were filed last year in Webb County. Of those, there's I believe 4,100 that are open, and that's because there are enforcements, there are actions that come back through modifications of child support, modifications of family law visitation. So every single family is affected, whether you have an open case in a court or because family law applies to every single person from birth to death.
When we look at that number that you threw out, the 80%, Mindy, it can mean nothing or it can mean a lot. How does that compare to other counties around the state? Or, I mean, is it normal to have that high of a volume of family cases?
Family cases.
Oh, absolutely. The things that we're seeing here, Texas is seeing all over the state. And the importance of bringing this program is that for the first time ever, the State Bar of Texas, through its family law section and its membership committee, they're coming in, they're hosting the CLE, but it's a panel of 2 Webb County judges, 1 judge from Bexar County in San Antonio, and 1 from Harris County in Houston. So the lawyers that attend, they're going to get this amazing spectrum of perspective and experience. So they're going to learn what to do here, but also what's going on around the state.
Okay, and that obviously is going to help them when they're representing their clients or advocating for their clients as well. So very important for our legal community to get some of this good insight, correct?
Absolutely. The better that the lawyers know, the more they know, the sharper their skills at, the better for the community, the better for their clients, but really, ultimately, the better for the justice system. So this is a great thing for our community. We're so happy that they've decided to shine a spotlight on Webb County. One other interesting statistic that this is a first of its kind event in Webb County, but all 12 judges that have family law jurisdiction are hosting the reception for the State Bar President who's coming down. It's never happened before, but all 12 are on the same page and we're working for the community.
Now, these 12 judges, these are the sitting judges right now. They're also the judges for the specialty courts. Is that correct?
That's right. Okay. So the family law judges, or the judges that exercise family law jurisdiction in Webb County, you have 4 district judges, Judges Lopez, Knotson, Palomo, Garcia, the 2 county court at law judges, Martinez and Villarreal. You have the 2 senior district judges, Judges Ender and Hale, and the 4 associate judges, Judges Mendez, Mireles, Martinez, and Maldonado. Wow. All 12 that exercise family law jurisdiction, they're hosting the reception for the State Bar President who's coming down for this event.
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but are we adequately staffed from a judge perspective to handle the volume that we have in the county of family cases?
Yes. If the question is,
do we have enough judges?
Yes. So many times with the Office of Court Administration, their directives to judges is you have to look at your cases, but sometimes it's not a caseload problem or issue that we need to solve. It's a case management situation. So as long as you can manage your cases efficiently and effectively, you can plan for anything. So for example, when the state was telling us that we were going to have a surge in a certain type of case, I said, it doesn't matter what the number is. I just need to know what to plan for, and as long as we can plan, we're going to coordinate it well.
Okay, now,
Excellent.
you know, I do have a question about going back to that statistic about the family matters. Are these cases, I mean, because we report on a lot of these cases, do they get processed quickly? Sometimes it seems like, does that go back to the management, that some of these cases take a while to get resolution for?
So that's a two-part answer. First, the Texas Supreme Court has time management standards that applies to all cases. So certain cases, depending on the type of case, has to get resolved in a certain amount of time. So for example, in a family law case, 1 year if it's not contested, more if it's complex or contested. But the second part to the response is every case is different. There are some cases that are straightforward. They may not have children. There may be no property in divorces. That's pretty straightforward. If there's a contested case, because it's complex, usually those cases involve different retirement accounts, different properties, multiple children, and a large amount of assets. And sometimes it's hard to evaluate what a business is worth, so that takes time too. So all of these things come into place, so it's really hard to say what a case should take, but if we look at all the factors that go involved, we'll know how long it's supposed to take.
Got it. Judge, let's talk a little bit about how our legal community can register and be a part of the conference coming up.
Sure. I have sent an email to lawyers because we want them to come in, we want them to participate, we want them to learn from the leaders that are coming from the state bar. They can call Webb County Court at Law 2, and they can also send me an email. And they can show up on Tuesday, January 27th at noon at Webb County Court at Law 2. We would love all lawyers to be present so that they can benefit from this program.
Okay, and they do get their continuing education credits, correct?
Absolutely.
That might be an interesting gathering of people.
Right, a lot of lawyers in one room, and judges too. Thank you, Judge. We appreciate you being here. Stick around, though. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the one thing that our panelists cannot stop thinking about. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. It's the one thing that our panelists cannot stop thinking about, and we're going to start with Judge Victor Villarreal.
I can't stop thinking about the amazing opportunity that Webb County residents are going to have with the legal kiosk. It's going to be unveiled. We're going to have a ribbon cutting on Tuesday, January 27th in the morning. This is going to provide legal services and advice and resources to those people that cannot afford an attorney. They can go, they can use it, and connect with reference attorneys around the state.
So it's going to be virtual, online, or how's that going to work?
It's a terminal. There will be a person on the other side, an attorney.
A human?
A human. They can talk to them, receive legal advice to help persons that can't afford legal services.
No, that is
That's
invaluable.
awesome.
Wow, and you're unveiling it soon, so yeah, we'll be there.
Yes, we invite the community Tuesday, January 27th in the morning at South Laredo Library.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Judge. Luis.
So unlike the majority of the people in this building, I am not a Cowboy fan. I'm not a hater either, but I have been a Ram fan. I can't name the city because I've been a Ram fan since I can remember 1976, I think, is when I started following them. And unlike our Texas team, well, I guess the Texans are still here. The Rams have been to more Super Bowls than the Cowboys. And anyway, I won't even go there. But tonight on this channel, you'll get to watch the divisional playoffs of the Rams and the Bears. And so I'm stoked, ready to go. And
You don't think the
go
Bears
Rams.
are going to win?
I hope not.
Just throwing it out there.
I hope not.
Just throwing it out there. Okie doke. Well, my one thing is WBCA right here. We had the Commanders reception just this past Thursday evening. Of course, the Commanders reception traditionally kicks off the WBCA event. It's going to be a wonderful month ahead. There's a lot of great events taking place. And I just, I want to encourage the community to go out and take part in these. These folks put so much effort towards putting on a good month-long celebration, and it's hard work, and just want to get people to head on out there. We've had a relatively warm winter season, so hopefully the weather will work out for the parade, the carnivals, and we just
We'll
look
be ready.
forward. Yes, we are. And of course, you can watch the parade right here on KGNS.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Beyond the Headlines, but make sure to tune in next Sunday for another episode. Until then, have a fantastic week ahead.